If you need a decent DAC, but your budget is limited, then stay with me. Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Now, what we are having here today is just a simple good old DAC coming from FX Audio, and it's called SQ3. And as you can see, it's small, it has clean, sharp edges. It resembles quite a lot on Topping D10 and D10s also. And there are some other similarities too. For example, when it comes to connections, we have only one digital input, and that's USB. If you look here and you say, whoa, wait, there are optical and coaxial, I see them. Yeah, they actually belong to the output section, meaning that this one can act as a digital bypass. Why would you need that? Well, the only reason that I can come up with is that you're going to use this basically as an USB to SPDIF converter, meaning that you feed this one via USB cable from your PC to this one, then you connect digital output to a better DAC. If that makes any sense to you, then it's okay. If not, you are stuck with one digital input. It's USB and it's also a power input. There is no separate power jack. So when you connect this one, you can see it turning on. You receive the signal and the power from the same line. And when it comes to analog outputs, there's only one. As you can see here on the back, there is a pair of single-ended RCAs. No balanced outputs, no headphone output, it's a DAC only. And these can be line outs around 2 volts, which is a norm for today's DACs. But you can also adjust the volume, meaning that you can use this one as a small digital preamp, connecting it to some sort of active speakers or power amp directly using its own volume control. If you connect it to anything with a volume control already, such as integrated amp or preamp, etc., I suggest you keep this volume control at its maximum level, because that way you get the best dynamic range and best sound quality. Also, in the box, you get our remote control. It's small, it's plastic, but it does its job. And in my opinion, it's necessary if you want to use any DAC as a small preamp, because if it's not at your arm's length, you need this to control the volume actually. And that would be all regarding connectivity. Now, when it comes to the build, it's just nice. For a $99 device, you get all aluminum casing and it just feels sturdy and nice. It has this sort of classic but clean styling. It's a $99 device. There's nothing really much to complain about here. And lastly, before we continue to the sound quality section, I just wanted to mention that this DAC is based around Sabre DAC chip. I'll put that on the screen. And with that, we are moving to its sound quality. Now, the sound of this DAC is as you would expect from a decently done Sabre DAC chip to sound. That means it's focused, it's detailed, and it's precise. Now, bassline is not warm, but it's well controlled, it's fast, it has speed. Same goes for the mid-bass and the mid-range section that is very detailed, slightly forward in my opinion, very focused, and we have really well-defined edges. Everything sounds clean and crisp and energetic. But in my opinion and to my ears, it's never overwhelmingly sharp or overwhelmingly edgy. I think there is a decent mass, decent density to the mid-range, making everything sound quite nicely balanced. And when it comes to the highest spectrum, it's well extended, it's quite detailed, but again, it's not overly bright, it's not tiring on a longer run, it's just a pleasantly extended and open sounding highest frequency spectrum. Now, I'm very sorry that I don't have Topping D10 and D10s with me anymore, because these are direct competitors to this $100 DAC. But going by my memory, if it serves me well, so take this with a pinch of salt, I think that SQ3 here sounds a little bit cleaner and a little bit more focused than Topping D10s. That's the latest iteration of that DAC. That one is slightly warmer sounding, and it's a really nice DAC too, but this one is maybe a little bit firmer and a little bit grippier, if you like that. Also, SMSL Sanskrit 10th MK2, for example, is again a slightly warmer sounding DAC, while SQ3, one more time, feels grippier and more controlled in the bass and mid-bass region, and maybe with a slightly better focus in the mid-range section. And in my book, that makes this a pretty decent sounding DAC that is very successfully exchanging hits with a more famous competition. It's just a matter of taste, in my opinion. Personally, I think I would probably prefer this one to Topping D10s, for example. But I also wanted to compare it with some other DACs that I have at hand. They're not as much direct competition as these that I mentioned, but I have them so I could compare them directly. For example, Hidizs S9 Pro, it's $120 small DAC dongle. I connected it to the same devices as SQ3 here by using this sort of adapter, so I can use RCA to RCA cables and hook both of these to same amps. And what I realized is again that SQ3 sounds a little grippier and a little bit more focused. I think edges are slightly cleaner and maybe I'm aware of transients a little bit more. While S9 Pro is slightly warmer in the mid-bass section, it's warming vocals and mid-range just a bit, and some of you might prefer that, while some of you will probably prefer more focused and precise, but somewhat drier presentation of SQ3. I would probably, if I had to choose between these two, I would decide based on their form factor. So for a desktop solution, I would go with this one, because it sounds great, it has display, it has remote control, and maybe to my taste, I like this firm grip over bass notes and mid-bass section, so maybe I prefer it just a touch to S9 Pro. That said, of course, if you like something portable that you can carry around with you, this one is a great small device. Another one that it's sort of my go-to reference in a sub $200 category, that's Loxjie D30. This is a 2-in-1 DAC/headphone amp. It uses AK chip. Now the new version is on the way, and that new D30 will use Saber chip too, because AK Factory sadly had some sort of accident and it burned. So a lot of manufacturers are switching from AK DAC chips to Sabers. But I have this older one with AK chip, and when I compare its DAC analog out to SQ3's, D30 sounds just a little bit more refined and airy, but it's also slightly warmer in the bass section and mid-bass section. Altogether, it's somewhat more relaxed listening. It feels more laid back, slightly softer and warmer, with a bit wider soundstage and airier presentation. SQ3, on the other hand, feel more focused. It locks on those edges better and it has tighter grip on the bass notes, but it feels somewhat more congested and less airy up top. It's very clean, it's very crisp, but you don't have the same sensation of air as with D30. All in all, they're pretty comparable. I do believe D30 sounds a little bit better, but for the price of SQ3, it put a really good fight. And again, there's really nothing to complain about when it comes to its sound quality, especially considering the lower price. And finally, Hidizs HD80s. It's a portable device. It uses Saber DAC also, but it's battery powered. You have to charge it from time to time and it runs on its own battery. This one do sound cleaner and more spacious and more 3D. Compared to it, SQ3 is just a little bit more congested. Everything is closely gathered towards the center. That said, I don't know, some of you might actually prefer this more focused presentation, more centered sound. It's also more forward, while DH80s here feels more 3D, more spacious, and it extends the soundstage further, deeper. All that said, personally, I do believe this one is better sounding, but it comes at higher price. And in my opinion, it's not as convenient as SQ3 because it has that battery, you have to think about charging it. So again, SQ3 offers quite decent bundle of low price, nice packaging, remote. It's a desktop product with a really decent sound quality that I cannot find anything that I would complain about. And while testing all of these, I would, for example, start listening to one song and, oh, I didn't hear this song for quite some time. Or maybe it's a new song. Oh, I like this one. And during that time, I never felt an urge to move from this DAC to another better sounding one. That's its talent. Even if you compare it directly to a pricier DAC and you realize that that pricier one sounds better, this one sounds good enough. It doesn't really do anything wrong and bad, and I can fully immerse myself into the music and enjoy it. So that basically leads me to the conclusion, which is, for the asking price of just $99 US, considering everything you get and considering its sound quality, I find FX Audio SQ3 to be a really decent offer on the market. Especially if you're into that more focused and grippy sound. That said, I hope you liked this video. If you did, then click that button, share it with your friends. And if you really appreciate what I'm doing here on this channel, consider becoming a patron. That would really help me get more devices and test more stuff. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.